Welcome into the Huddle Up Podcast. I am your host, Taylor Sharp. It has been a while since we've been here, guys. Look, at the radio station I work at, football season, by far the busiest part of the year for me and, well, everyone else that works with me. But look, we are back talking a little NFL football. We are 4 weeks into the 2025 football season. A lot of thoughts to get through. Today, what I want to do is look at the most surprising teams in the NFL. I'll give you one that I'm surprised they're good. The other I think is underperformed, and I'm really surprised they're as bad as they are. Oh, good vibes today, so we'll start with the positives. The biggest positive for me, I know a lot of people are probably thinking, okay, well, it's going to be the Indianapolis Colts. It is not going to be the Indianapolis Colts because I don't think the Colts are very good. Now, you can look and say, well, hell, Taylor, they started 3-0. They only lost one game. It was to the Los Angeles Rams. It was a close game. I understand that. But look at who they beat the first 3 weeks of the season. They beat the Titans, who were winless. They beat the Dolphins, who were winless. They beat the Broncos, who before Monday night were 1-2. So their first three opponents through the first 3 weeks of the season were a combined 1-8. That's not good. You had a really easy schedule to open things up. Now, I think that offense is much improved with Daniel Jones at quarterback than with Anthony Richardson. Shocker, we've been saying that all offseason long. Anthony Richardson's not the guy. You have to move on from him. I understand that Daniel Jones had his struggles in New York. Two things. One, change of scenery sometimes does good for a guy. Two, what quarterback is any good in New York? They just changed from Russell Wilson to Jackson Dart, but I'm not going to go with the Indianapolis Colts. To me, they're still wait and see. I still don't trust Daniel Jones. I still don't trust Shane Steichen, and I still don't trust that front office. I'm in wait and see mode with the Indianapolis Colts until further notice. But the team I want to look at that I'm surprised is doing as good as they are is the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers right now are 3-1. They're coming off of a victory overseas. It was an 8 a.m. game. They win that, but it's the way Pittsburgh's doing it. I mean, Aaron Rodgers playing at a really high level. Now, I've said here a few times and said I don't think Rodgers' raw numbers were nearly as bad with the Jets last season as maybe a lot of other people thought they were, but it just wasn't a good fit. The body language wasn't there. And honestly, I was a doubter when he signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It didn't really have anything to do with Aaron Rodgers' talent, even though at 41 years old, he's obviously not who he was 10 years ago. But my question was, how is it going to work with him and Mike Tomlin? Aaron Rodgers, a pretty eccentric guy, likes to do things his own way. To me, Mike Tomlin strikes me as a hard-nosed guy, likes to do everything kind of by the book. I wasn't sure their personalities were going to gel. Hand up, I was wrong. I was dead wrong. They look really good now. Not only that, they're going to run away with that division. You look at what they're doing. They're at 3-1. Then you have the Cleveland Browns who, well, they're going to be the Cleveland Browns and they're never going to compete for anything. Cincinnati Bengals lost Joe Burrow. They look like they're pretty much done. And then the Baltimore Ravens, one of the surprise bad teams, they're beat up. Lamar's beat up. They're 1-3 now. I think they're chasing the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's a chance that Mike Tomlin, Aaron Rodgers, and the Pittsburgh Steelers run away with this division. Now, I mentioned Aaron Rodgers performing so well. Remember, they signed DK Metcalf, but traded away George Pickens. A question I had was, okay, who outside of DK Metcalf do you have? You had Calvin Austin. I mean, who was going to be your tight end? Right now it's Jonnu Smith. And then you didn't really have any weapons in the running game because you moved on from Najee Harris. Jaylen Warren is hurt. You've been kind of going with Caleb Johnson and Kenneth Gainwell. And then it's been pretty much all DK Metcalf on the outside. I mean, Calvin Austin's probably your number two, and he's a distant number two. But the connection between DK and Aaron Rodgers is something to watch. And then Kenneth Gainwell in the backfield. I mentioned that 8 a.m. game they had this past Sunday overseas. Kenneth Gainwell had 2 rushing touchdowns in that game. And then rookie Caleb Johnson, he kind of provided that nice spark as a number 2 running back. We know they have a good front office. We know they have good leadership in Mike Tomlin. If Aaron Rodgers stays course and keeps playing the way he is, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be a tough out. And I know I did not. I'm sure most people did not see that coming. I thought the Pittsburgh Steelers might struggle this year, but they're in a weak division with the Browns, the Bengals, and the Ravens all struggling. And then being 3-1 to start this season, the way Aaron Rodgers is playing, pairing that with a pretty good defense. I really like what I've seen from the Pittsburgh Steelers so far. Now we go to a little bit more of the negative, right? And no, I'm not going Baltimore Ravens. I know I just talked about them. Look, they're really beat up. They've had some injury issues. Lamar's now beat up. He's battling a hamstring. And it's kind of about time for them, right? Like, Derrick Henry's still a really good player. He's got some fumbling issues, and we always talk about, hey, when is that fall-off going to come with the running backs? And then when you have a roster, you have a window of when you need to win that Super Bowl. Maybe it's just as simple as the Ravens missed their window. I don't know. We'll see. They're 1-3. They have an uphill battle to climb, but they've been so good for so long. I'm not really gonna trash them that much. And then everybody's gonna say, okay, well, the Kansas City Chiefs, they started 0-2. They've gotten a little bit healthier. They got Xavier Worthy back. They've won their last two. They're 2-2. They still don't have Rashee Rice yet. This team's going to get a little bit healthier offensively. And Steve Spagnuolo and that defense is going to be as good as anybody in the league. I'm not really worried about the Kansas City Chiefs. Look, are they as dominant as they were 3 or 4 years ago? Are they overwhelming Super Bowl favorites? No. But I think the Chiefs could still make something happen because they still have number 15, Patrick Mahomes, leading that offense. And with him, you can overcome a lot of deficiencies. I'm going to go with the Houston Texans. Look, DeMeco Ryans in year 3, he got there with C.J. Stroud. And if you remember, C.J. Stroud really surprised a lot of people his rookie year. He had a season that was better than most expected. He did a really nice job. He led that team to the playoffs. Now, when you go look, last year, they still were able to get into the playoffs as a wild card, but Stroud's numbers are dropped across the board. This year, it's been awful. They just got their first win of the season on Sunday. But they beat the Tennessee Titans, who in my opinion is the worst team in the NFL, 26-0. They were 0-3 before that. The Texans are still 1-3. I try to figure out why this team is not better. I think DeMeco Ryans is a really good coach, and he's a great defensive coordinator. The Texans through 4 games, 11 points per game is what they're giving up, and they're 1-3. The reason they're 1-3, their offense in 4 games. I mentioned the 26-0 against Tennessee, so they do have 26 on the board. The 3 games prior to that, 9 points, 19 points, 10 points. That's just not good enough. You're wasting an elite defense. Jalen Petre's done a really good job. Derek Stingley Jr. is one of the best corners, if not the best corner in the NFL. You have Danielle Hunter as an edge rusher. Pairing that with a Will Anderson. I mean, 2 elite pass rushers. You have 2 corners I just mentioned in Petre and Stingley. Like, you have a really good defense. And then on the flip side of things, your offense has a lot of weapons. Even though Joe Mixon hasn't played, Nick Chubb has done a really good job getting the tough yardage. Woody Marks has shown flashes as a rookie. And then on the outside, you still have Nico Collins, who is a borderline top 10 receiver when fully healthy. You have a Christian Kirk. He's a savvy veteran. Jaden Higgins, the 6'4 wide receiver out of Iowa State. He's done some nice things. You have another Iowa State wide receiver in Jalen Noel. He's done a really good job in the return game. He's caught some passes as well. Dalton Schultz is one of the best tight ends in the NFL. Your offensive line is shaky, but your weapons on the outside should be able to overcome that. But it's C.J. Stroud. He's not playing well. Now, sure, he had a decent game against the Titans, but I just mentioned, the Titans are 0-4. They're probably the worst team in the NFL. Like, I'll be surprised if they win more than 3 or 4 games this entire season. Why are the Houston Texans, I should say, not better? You have every weapon you could need on the outside. You still have a pretty decent running game, and if Joe Mixon ever gets healthy, you'll be even better there. You have an elite defense with one of the best defensive coaches in the National Football League in DeMeco Ryans, who also happens to be your head coach. You're coming off back-to-back playoff appearances, but just something feels off. Maybe it's C.J. Stroud. And, I was kind of a doubter of Stroud before he came into the league, but then after that rookie year, I'm like, hey, look, I was wrong about it. But maybe I wasn't. Maybe it is C.J. Stroud. Because I don't really know where else to look. Again, I know their offensive line's beat up, but Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay is playing without 3 starters on the offensive line. They're 3-1. There's a lot of teams out there. The Chargers are beat up on their offensive line. They're 3-1. Justin Herbert's playing fine. C.J. Stroud just does not look right. He does not look like that guy who took the league by storm as a rookie. Even last year to this year, there's a significant drop-off, and I thought he was better as a rookie than he was in year 2. Maybe it's Stroud. And you can say, okay, well, it's the offensive play call. Bobby Slowick was the coordinator last year, and it didn't work last year. You have a different guy in there this year, and it's still not working. Stroud is the common denominator. I like him. I'm willing to give him this season, but look, maybe it's something like a Trevor Lawrence situation. We saw Lawrence have that one breakout season his second year. He led the team to the playoffs. He had an upset win over the LA Chargers, which is the team that C.J. Stroud and Houston beat last year in the playoffs. And then Trevor Lawrence has never been able to replicate it for whatever reason. Maybe CJ Stroud's going down that similar path. I'm not sure. Maybe that's the reason they're not better. But when you have weapons like that on the outside, you have a quarterback that's led you to multiple playoffs, you have a pretty good head coach, you have an elite defense, you have weapons on the outside. Why is this team only 1-3? Something has to change in Houston. Who knows? Maybe it's a change at the quarterback position. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Huddle Up Podcast. Next time, I'm going to preview some of the big matchups coming up in Week 5. There's a lot of them, and then I'll give you kind of my big bright spots player-wise. We did teams today. I'll look at some of the breakout players here in 2025. And again, if you like this content, please like, subscribe, comment, and we'll catch you next time here on the Huddle Up Podcast.